Chapter 5 Supreme Contentment Uttam Shauch Shuchair Bhavah Shaucham. Purity, that is holiness, is contentment. The word Uttam prefixed with Shauch denotes the existence of Samyak Darshan. Therefore, the attachmentless purity found with right belief is the religion of supreme contentment. The passion of greed has been treated as the contrary phase of Shauch Dharma. Greed is said to be the father of vices, because there is no sin worth the name in which a greedy person does not indulge. What does a greedy self not do? In whatever way he acts, his main concern always remains only to collect, anyhow, even by hook or by crook, wealth, etc., the materials of enjoyment. The great Pandit Todarmal has described the conduct of a greedy person thus: when the greedy passion manifests in oneself, he, being desirous of getting the desired things, thinks about various means for its accomplishment. He speaks words in support of it, poses his body in different ways, tolerates severe miseries, serves others, goes to foreign, indulges in that work which may end his life, and starts such activities which cause great sufferings. On the rise of avarice, even it be the work of respected and adored person, there too he tries somehow to achieve his goal, giving no thought to rationality. And whatever desired thing has to be obtained, he tries to protect it by various means. If the desired object is not obtained or is lost, he feels very much distracted, starts cutting the parts of his own body and dies by swallowing poison, etc. Such a state happens when avarice manifests. Acharya Shubhachandra has written in the 19th chapter of Gyanarnav even to this extent: Swami Guru Bandhu Vriddhan Bala Balanshcha Jeerna Deena Deen Vyapadya Vigat Shanko Lobharto Vittamaadatte Yakechit Siddhante Doshaha Shvabhrasya Sadhakaha Proktaha Prabhavanti Nirvicharante Lobha Deva Jantunam. The person empowered by this avarice passion takes the wealth even by killing cruelly his own master, teacher, brother, friend, aged person, wife, children, and weak, poor, orphan, and destitute fellows. Whatever evils are mentioned as instrumental for hell in mythological scriptures are all manifested due to avarice passion. A person who is avaricious of wealth is always found busy in collection only. He does not find time to enjoy it. The avarice of animals is limited to fill the stomach only. Getting the stomach filled, it feels satisfied, though for the time being. But the greed of a human being is not limited to filling the stomach only. He remains unsatisfied always due to the anxiety of filling up the box. Day and night his concern is money and money alone. His preoccupation is always money. He does not believe that even after making various efforts, money and other desired things cannot be obtained without the rise of auspicious karmas, because the acquisition of things, wealth, and etc. is the fruit of punya karmas done in the past. For emphasizing this, it is written in Bhagavati Aradhana: Lobhe kaye vyatho na hui purisassa apadi bhogassa akaye vihavadi lobhe attho padi bhogavattassa. The virtueless person, though engrossed in avarice, does not acquire wealth, and the virtuous person, though without avarice, acquires wealth. Therefore, in the acquisition of wealth, attachment to greed is not the cause, but virtue is the only cause. Bearing this in mind, one should give up greediness. Further, for infusing the spirit of giving up greediness of the forsaken wealth, it is said: Savve vijay attha parigahidate ananta khutto me atthe su ittako majja vibhao gahi davi jadesu ihaya parattaye loe dose bahuve ya avahai lobho idi appano ganitta nijje davvo havadi lobho. In this world, wealth has been acquired infinite times, so it is futile to be astonished about this wealth which has been acquired and forsaken infinite times. In this world and in the afterworld, avarice produces many evils. Knowing this, one must conquer the avarice passion. These days, the temptation of property only is considered to be greed. Many people spend money on passional acts and luxuries, but if they spend extra vacantly, they are called gracious people, and those who spend restrictedly are called greedy. Presume, for the sake of illustration, someone invites you for breakfast and also takes you to cinema. In your opinion, he is an uncovetous fellow. But if you are required to pay the bill for the breakfast or to pay for the cinema ticket also, you will scream, "Oh my God, what a greedy fellow I have come across." Likewise, suppose if you go to collect contribution for a religious institution and someone contributes below your expectation or does not contribute at all, then you will brand him as an avaricious person. But if he contributes more than your expectation, he becomes generous in your eyes. Maybe he has contributed only for greed of getting fame. Thus, persons who are fame greedy are treated to be generous ones. One who appears magnanimous externally may turn out to be very greedy. This probability does not get our attention. Really speaking, the greed of money is not everything. Greed is of many types. Example, greed of fame, greed of fair complexion, greed of name, greed of sex, etc. As a matter of fact, the desire to accomplish the objects of the five senses and passions like pride is the real greed. The greed of money is an artificial greed only. This is a new acquisition of the human life. Greed is found in all the four states of embodied existence, but the transactions of money are not found in all the four states. If the greed of money only be treated to be greed, then establishing the existence of greed in all the four states would not be possible. However, the Acharyas, while discussing the abundance of passions, have mentioned excess of greed in heavenly life. Wrath in infernal beings, pride in human beings, deceit in subhuman beings, and greed in celestial beings are found predominantly. In heavenly life, there is no transaction of money. How can then greed be tied in the four corners of money? Money is simply a means of exchange. There is nothing in money which may attract the jeev. It has neither color nor taste to attract people. The paper notes for which man ever remains prepared even to lose his life, if kept before a cow, it will not even smell it, whereas it will rush towards the grass. Money is the media of accomplishing the objects of the five senses and the passion of pride, and etc. This is the reason why a man is tempted to acquire it. If worldly pleasures in name and fame could not be achieved through it, nobody would bother to go after it. Money's value is an imposed one. In itself, it has no value. Therefore, obviously, the greed of money is also an imposed one. The persons who are greedy of fair complexion, name, and fame can be found spending money extravagantly anywhere. To substantiate this fact, hundreds of examples are found in mythology and in history. People desirous of getting their names engraved on the boards for the sake of immortality of name would do well to take a lesson from Bharat Chakravarti's experience. He went to write his name, but found the rock completely filled with the names of Chakravarti kings. He could write his name only after rubbing one name. On pondering over the situation, he was nonplussed to visualize that his name, too, would be rubbed by a later Chakravarti who would like to write his own name. Greedy persons could be of several types. 4 types of greeds are enumerated by Akalank Dev in Rajvartik. 1. Greed of life. 2. Greed of health. 3. Greed of sense, objects. 4. Greed of re-enjoyment. Acharya Amrit Chandra has also mentioned 4 types of greed in Tattvartha Sutra. He states, Paribhogopabhogatvam jivatendriya bhedataha chaturvidhasya lobhasya nivrattihi shaucha muchyate. Bhog, upabhog, survival, and the objects of 5 senses. These are the 4 kinds of greed. Shauch Dharma, that is the religion of contentment, is the name of relinquishing the greed of all the 4 types. The only difference in the 2 aforesaid types of classifications is that Akalank Dev has included Bhog and Upabhog both under Upabhog, and the greed of health has been mentioned separately. In the above-mentioned types of greed, the greed of money has nowhere been enumerated. If we pay attention on the aforesaid types of greed, the predominance of the greed of the objects of the five senses is clearly seen. Bhog and upabhog are the objects of the five senses only. Health of the body is also related with the power of enjoying the objects of senses, because except the mass of five senses, what else is the body? The greed of living too is nothing but the avarice of the existence of the body. In this way, we find that the above-mentioned different types of greed get incorporated under the objects of the five senses. While describing the wretchedness of the Jeev immersed in the greed of the objects of the five senses and inspiring the aforesaid greed, the author of Paramatma Prakash has written thus: Ruvi Payanga Saddi Maya Gaya Fasahina Santi Aliula Gandhai Macha Rasi Kim Anurau Karanti Joi Alahu Parichayahi Lohuna Bhallau Hoi Loha Sattau Sayalu Jagu Dukkhum Sanhatau Joi. Color greedy moths by falling in the flame of lamp, the deers greedy of melodious words by penetration of hunter's arrow, elephants greedy of sex by falling into the pit, the buzzing black flies greedy of fragrance by getting closed in the lotus, and the fish greedy of taste by getting pierced by the fisherman's nail or by getting captured in the net, all suffer from extreme pain and end their lives. O Jeev, why do you become greedy of such sense objects? Why do you develop attachment with them? O Yogi, thou must give up greed. This greed is in no way good, because the whole world is suffering from misery is being captive to it. When the passion of greed, which overshadows the nature of the soul and is contrary to Shauch Dharma, comes into its intense state, it suppresses even the other passions. A greedy person does not bother about respect or insult. He swallows worth too. The passion of greed not only overrides other kinds of passions, but it also overrides itself. As for example, the greed of money is superseded by the greed of fame. The famous erudite scholar of Hindi, Acharya Ramchandra Shukla, has satirically written about the mental disposition of greedy person thus: the self-control of avaricious persons is in no way less than the self-control of recluses. They conquer lust and wrath by the force of avarice, sacrifice longing for pleasure, maintain indifference in situations of respect and insult. What more is now required? If one from whom they expect to get something even abuses them in some many words, neither any sign of resentment appears on their faces, nor do they feel ashamed. They are neither averse to sucking the fly, nor do they feel compassion in sucking the blood of others. Even when a beautiful face is before them, they do not leave a single paisa. They would not forsake a single coin even on listening piteous cry. They are not ashamed in spreading their hands, even before the most wretched person. He further states, the staunch avaricious persons do not deviate from their goal. The weak ones may get disheartened. Suppose many persons are pulling and pushing each other for obtaining a particular thing. If one of them, being overpowered by anger, destroys that thing, he cannot be called a staunch avaricious person. Because anger has suppressed his greed, he has gone astray from his goal. Greed, attachment, avarice, desire, want, etc. are the various names of Lobh Kashai, the passion of greed. Love or affection are also names for greed. When greed is about some particular thing, it is termed as avarice or attachment. But when the same greed is towards some person, it is given the name of affection or love. The affection towards the objects of the five senses is nothing but greed. The objects of the five senses can either be animate or inanimate. Often, the feeling of affection towards animate objects is termed as love, whereas the feeling of attachment towards inanimate object is denoted by the term greed. Man's attraction towards women is given the name of love only. In this context, Mr. Shukla's thoughts are further worth noting. But in ordinary conversation, the disposition of mind towards an object is called greed, and the disposition towards any particular person is termed as love. Due to object-wise difference in the inanimate things and living persons, much difference in the nature and tendency of greed is discernible, due to which the greed in respect of a person is termed separately. But basically, both greed and love are one and the same. Various attractive terms like universal love, affection are used for the reformed form of greed. But after all these are only different aspects of greed. The attachment found towards one's parents, sons, daughters, etc. are assuredly regarded as auspicious. One type of greed is so much refined that it does not appear to be greed-like. People misunderstand it as religion. The greed of heaven is of this kind. Though to perform all types of rituals and auspicious deeds in the name of religion with the view of getting heavenly pleasures is greed and greed alone. Yet, in the eyes of the world, such greedy persons appear to be religious-like. The chief saints have enlisted under the category of greedy persons even the persons aspiring for moksha, because in the ultimate analysis, desire is also greed, may it be for any object. While explaining the characteristics of Acharya Parmeshthi, Pandit Todarmal has even used the word greedy of religion, which is as follows. On rare occasions, if the acharyas find that people greedy of religion beg of them to preach religion, then because of the feeling of compassion due to rise of rag, the acharyas give religious instructions to them. Acharya Amrit Chandra too has even used the phrase greed of perceptibles. Even rag towards religion and religious persons is termed as dharma, that too in Janwani. But all this narration is from empirical point of view. The point worth noting in regard to this is that rag, being a kind of passion, cannot be devoid of passion. When religion is the name of passionlessness, desirelessness, how can the feeling of attachment be religion? It can, therefore, be said assuredly that the feeling of attachment, whether for a minor form or of acute form, whether it be auspicious or inauspicious, for vice or virtue, cannot be dharma, because after all by nature it is a form of passion. One should not be surprised by the above discussion but should try to ponder over it seriously. In the scriptures, the existence of greed has been stated up to the 10th Gunasthan. Does it mean that the highly esteemed, possessionless, naked, self-absorbed, real Digambar saints in stages from 6th Gunasthan to 10th Gunasthan will also be possessing greed for the objects of senses? No, never. The object of their greed can only be religion and religious persons. One may ask that those who have forsaken all sorts of possessions and occupations, and on whose body even thread is not found, does greed exist even in such great ascetics like Kundakundacharya and etc.? A simple answer to this question is that this is not my conjecture. All this is based on scriptures, and all savant scholars of scriptures also know this very well. Therefore, to grasp the true nature of greed, one will have to understand it in its broader sense. This purpose will not be served by limiting it only to money and other material property. One can further raise a question as to why all this discussion relates to great saints and why not about our own self. In answer to this, I would say, why do you forget that the discussion is in the context of Shauch Dharma, and the description of Shauch Dharma in the scriptures is found in relation to the possessionless naked saints only. In Tattvarth Sutra, the 10 religions, supreme forbearance and etc. have been described, along with self-control and equanimity, the inherent characteristics of saints. Greed of various kinds, which has been described as the father of sins by the acharyas, has nowadays occupied the seat of religion. The so-called religious persons are bent on proving greed to be religion. They acclaim it to be even the cause of liberation and are cursing them who do not believe it to be so. The 25 types of passions are included in Rag Dvesh. These include 4 types of anger, 4 types of pride, disliking, elegy, fear and hatred. These 12 passions are dvesh. The rest, 4 types of deceit, 4 types of greed, 3 types of sex passion, liking and laughter, these 13 passions are rag. Thus, when all the 4 types of greed are included in rag, people who believe rag to be religion must pause and think whether they are believing greed to be religion. But greed is not only sin, but the father of sins. Attachment, whether dormant or intense, auspicious or inauspicious, would remain rag and rag only. And when it is rag, it would be deceit, greed, sex passion, liking, or laughter that is one of these only. Besides these types, no other type of rag is found described in the scriptures. These 13 passions are themselves rag. Hence, believing rag to be religion would amount to believing kashay to be dharma, whereas in fact dharma is the name of passionlessness. Charitra is the real dharma, and it is the passionless of the self which is devoid of delusion and perturbation, that is, devoid of attachment and aversion. The 10 religions are also the modifications of conduct, hence, they are also passionless states of the soul. Shauch Dharma is the religion of a higher stage, even when compared with supreme forbearance, because greed passion, which is antilogous to Shauch Dharma, disappears after the disappearance of other passions, that is anger, pride, deceit. Hence, he whose greed has been totally annihilated must have overcome all sorts of passions, anger, etc. earlier. In the 25 types of passions, the passion of greed persists up to the end of all. Greed can exist even when anger, etc. have been totally gone. Overcome by the presence of anger, etc. is not possible after greed has been overcome. Greed can exist even when anger, etc. have been totally overcome, but the presence of anger, etc. is not possible after greed has been overcome. This is the reason why greed is described as the most dangerous passion and contentment as the highest religion. It is also said, Shauch sada nirdosh, dharma bado sansar mein. From the above statement, one other fact is also established that Shauch Dharma is not merely the name of the end of greed passion, but is really the name of the end of the last passion, which happens to be greed. Because if contentment alone is Shauch Dharma, then does only greed passion make the soul unholy and not the other passions? If all types of passions make the soul unholy, then Shauch Dharma should be the name of the absence of all types of passions. If one says that absence of anger is forgiveness, absence of pride is modesty, and absence of deceit is straightforwardness, and because now only greed is left out, its absence obviously becomes Shauch. Then my cross question is, are anger, pride, deceit, and greed only passions? Are laughter, liking, disliking, fear, hatred, elegy, and passions relating to sex not passions? These too are passions. Don't these make the soul unholy? If these do make the soul unholy, then the absence of all the 25 passions should be called Shauch Dharma and not only the absence of greed. Now you might argue, it is not you who maintains this. It is written in the scriptures, Acharyas too have stated like this. But gentlemen, I too say the same thing, that in the scriptures the absence of greed is called Shauch, and before greed is totally finished, all the other passions are gone. Hence, it is automatically proved that the soul remains unholy in the presence of all types of passions, and Shauch Dharma gets manifested only in the absence of all types of passions. Since greed ends in the end of all the 25 passions, so in the words, greed the last means all the 25 passions are covered. This discussion relates to the stage of perfect Shauch Dharma. The development of Shauch Dharma at various stages will be correlative to the degree to which various passions, which have greed at their end, will be overcome. Here a question may arise, that since anger, etc., all passions make the soul unholy, then on the going off of anger, some degree of holiness in the soul would assuredly get manifested. Why is then the absence of anger or the absence of pride not treated as manifestation of Shauch Dharma? Why is the absence of greed passion only necessary for the rise of Shauch Dharma? There is a reason for this. It is this that even on disappearance of anger totally, perfect holiness does not manifest in the soul, because greed may still persist. But when greed has been conquered, no other passion remains existing. Therefore, keeping in view only perfect holiness, Shauch Dharma is said to have emerged in the absence of greed alone. But the extent to which passions are conquered, to that degree, chastity is certainly evolved in the soul. Greed passion is the most powerful passion. This is the reason why it exists till the last. When greed also is overcome, Shauch Dharma manifests along with the conquest over greed, hence it is a great religion. People have limited this great Shauch Dharma only up to physical cleaning. I don't maintain that physical cleaning is bad, but real purity does not lie in it. Shauch Dharma does not emerge as a consequence of physical cleaning. The forceful emergence of Shauch Dharma seen in the great ascetics who observe the vow of not taking bath does not take place in householders who take bath even thrice a day. A hymnist also stated the same thing in the following stanza. Prani sada shuchi shila jap tap jnana dhyana prabhavate nita ganga jamuna samudra nahaye ashuchi dosha subhavate upar amal mal bharayo bhitar kaun vidhi ghat shuchi kahe bahudeha maili sugun theli shauch gan sadhu lahe. By nature, soul is always perfectly holy. But in the modification, whatever impurity due to delusion, attachment, aversion, etc. is present, it will not vanish simply by physical cleaning. It will vanish only by engrossment in Atmagyan, Atmadhyan, chastity, continence, hymns and austerities. The physique, being made up of bones and flesh, is impure by nature. It will not become holy by deep dips in Ganga and Jamuna. The body is just like that pot which outwardly appears to be filthless, but which has filth inside. Even if such a pot be cleaned heavily, it is not going to become pure. So is the case with this body. Though cleaned to any extent, it will not become pure, since it is made up of filth only. Although this body is impure, but soul, a mass of infinite attributes, resides in it. Therefore, in a way, it is a bag of many good attributes. This is the reason that the great saints, even without paying attention on the cleanliness of the body, achieve Shauch Dharma by developing the self-attributes. Another thing is that Shauch Dharma is the religion of the soul. What has it got to do with the impurity of the body? After all, the body is composed of filth only. What else is the body except blood, flesh, bones, and etc.? When all these substances are impure, how can this body, a mass of all these things, be made holy? Elucidating this point, I had written earlier, यदि हड्डी अपवित्र है तो वह तेरी नाही, और खून भी अशुचि है वह पुद्गल पर छाही. तेरी शुचिता ज्ञान है और अशुचिता राग, राग आग को त्याग कर निज को निज में पाग. The impurity of blood, flesh and bones is a matter concerned with the body. The impurity of the soul is delusion, attachment and aversion, and its purity is its knowledge and bliss-based nature and right belief, knowledge and conduct. Hence, to lessen delusion, attachment, aversion, which makes the soul impure, one must know the self, must recognize the self, and must get absorbed in the self. This is what is meant by Nij ko Nij mein paag. Attachment and aversion cover all the 25 passions. Out of these, greed is covered under rag. This point has already been explained earlier. These emotions of attachment and aversion are impurer than bones, flesh and blood, because even in the presence of bones, blood, flesh, perfect purity, omniscience and infinite bliss get manifested in the soul. The soul becomes perfectly pure. But if there exists even a little trace of attachment, may it be of the lowest intensity, may it be auspicious of the high degree, even then omniscience and infinite bliss cannot be generated. The soul first becomes passionless and thereafter omniscient. To be omniscient, it is essential to first become passionless, but not without body, without bones or without blood. This proves that attachment is impurer than bones and blood. Even then, we consider auspicious attachment to be the religion. The main thing is that blood and bones, whether holy or unholy, have no concern with the purity of the soul. The non-voterists, wrong-faithed Jeev are unholy, and the right-faithed voterists are holy, even though the blood and bone both are similar. From this, it is amply clear that purity of soul is in passionlessness and impurity is delusion, attachment and aversion. The blood, flesh and bones have no concern with it whatsoever. Vadiraj Muniraj's body got affected by leprosy. Even then he was extremely holy because he possessed the wealth of Shauch Dharma. In household life, the body of Sanat Kumar Chakravarti was extremely beautiful. His beauty was the subject of talk even in the council of the king of the gods. And after listening about it, groups of devas used to come for seeing his beauty. But at that time, he was not possessing Shauch Dharma of that degree which he acquired later in ascetic life. Although in his ascetic life, his body got affected by leprosy, which continued up to 700 years. Even in that state of leprosy, Shauch Dharma of the order of the absence of 3 quaternities of passion was present in him. From empirical point of view, the cleanliness of the body is also termed as Shauch Dharma at some places, but in fact, the end of all passions up to the last greed passion only is Shauch Dharma. In other words, passionlessness alone is the real Shauch Dharma. Perfect passionlessness and omniscience are not achieved by the daily bath takers, but are in the reach of those who take oath of not taking bath throughout the life. As a matter of fact, Muniraj do not forsake bath, but forsake the attachment of taking bath. And in the absence of its attachment, where lies the question of taking bath? How peculiar it is that this body of bones requires a bath if touched with a bone. We all take bread from the mouth and eat it with the teeth. The teeth are nothing but bones. So long as the teeth are in the mouth, they are touchable, but on leaving their places, they become untouchable. On this, people comment, this is live bone and that is dead bone. In their view, even bones are of 2 types, that is live and dead. Whatever it may be, all this discussion is from empirical point of view, and so longer we are in the world, we all follow Vyavahar, and it must be followed also. But in the path of salvation, it has no place. This is the reason why Muniraj, the followers of the path of salvation, are away from these conventionaries. They are called Vyavaharatit, that is, those who have forsaken conventionaries. The real Shauch Dharma, which is devoid of Anantanubandhi, Apratyakhyanavaran and Pratyakhyanavaran, is found in the naked, possessionless saints who are firm in Nishchay and away from Vyavahar, because they have taken a very firm shelter of their own soul, which is absolutely holy and possess knowledge and blissful nature. They are fully engrossed in the soul, are fully drowned in it. Shauch Dharma, emerging in the soul in the absence of 2 quaternities of passions and only in the absence of 1 quaternity of passions, is found, respectively, in the right-faithed Shravak, householders who observe partial vows, and in those who do not observe vows, Shauch Dharma found in the right-faithed Aviratis, and Deshvrati Shravak is although real one, but it lacks that intensity of purity which is found in sainthood. Absolute perfect Shauch Dharma is found only in the passionless omniscience. By nature, all souls are absolutely holy. Contrariety is in the modification only. But when the modification takes shelter of the absolutely holy nature of the soul, it also then becomes holy. The only way to achieve purity in modification is to take shelter of the absolutely holy nature of the self-soul. Impurity in modification results under the shelter of other, not self objects, and purity is achieved by taking shelter of the self. In the commentary of Samaysar, Amrit Chandracharya has described the soul as absolutely pure in nature, and delusion, attachment, aversion, etc. emotional influxes as totally impure. He has described Asrav Tattva as Ashuchi, but according to him, Jeev Tattva and Ajeev Tattva are not unholy. The soul is Jeev, the body is Ajeev, both are not unholy. Asrav is only unholy and it is in the form of greed, etc. passional feelings. The purity of nature is so powerful that whichever paryaya stoops to it, whichever paryaya touches it, that paryaya also becomes holy. That thing alone is called sacred, which makes the object touching it also sacred. How could that thing be called sacred which becomes unholy when touched by other things? That thing is called paras. But if by its touch gold becomes iron, it cannot be called paras. Similarly, if by the touch of the unholy paryaya, the nature of the soul could become unholy, what is the use of such nature? Nature is the name of that quality under the shelter of which paryaya also achieves holiness. The name of that paryaya which becomes pure by touching the holy nature of the soul is Shauch Dharma. Without touching the nature of the soul, the origination of Shauch Dharma is unlikely to occur. Not only of Shauch Dharma, but the origination of all dharmas is possible only when self-realization takes place. Self-realization is the generator of all dharmas, example, supreme forbearance, and so on. Hence, those who want to achieve holiness in the paryaya, that is, who want to attain Shauch Dharma, should try to attain self-realization and be successful in attaining it. Ending this discussion, I pray that all souls may manifest Shauch Dharma in paryaya by attaining self-realization.